This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. with free weekly content and free shipping on orders over $150. You can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game has the M's back with me, with Mackenzie, Max, and Mika, and I battling it out. I have borrowed Mackenzie's Syr Ginger deck, keeping Urza's Factory, Forsaken Monument, Haunted Fengraf, Gyreach Sanitarium, Strip Mine, and Academy Manufactor. Mackenzie has built Tegwyll, keeping Spellstutter Sprite, Sword of Hearth and Home, 2 Islands, Adaptive Automaton, and Cavern of Souls. Maximus is playing a Xanathar deck, keeping 2 Swamps, Choked Estuary, an Island, Soul Ring, and Frantic Search. Mika is playing Faldorn, keeping Questing Druid, Mountain, Spinerock Knoll, Aurora Phoenix, Arcane Signet, Xenagos the Reveler, and a Mosswort Bridge. I win the die roll and start us off. I draw and play a Haunted Fengraf. Max plays a Choked Estuary, revealing a Swamp. He then plays a Soul Ring and casts Talisman of Dominance. Mika plays a Mosswort Bridge, which comes in tapped, and hides away one of his top 5. Mackenzie draws and plays Cavern of Souls, naming Fairy. I play Mishra's Foundry and pay 2 for Syr Ginger and pass. Max plays a Swamp, he then casts Frantic Search, drawing 2, discarding 2, and untapping his lands. He's got enough at this point for Thran Dynamo, and he passes after that. Mika plays a Blighted Woodland, and then pays 2 for an Arcane Signet and ships the turn. Mackenzie draws and plays an Island. He casts Fairy Mastermind and passes. I play an Urza's Factory, and pay 3 for the Academy Manufactor and go to combat. I swing Syr Ginger at Max, dealing 3, and pass after that. Max draws and casts Xanathar, and then plays Temple of Deceit, which scries 1 as it comes in tapped. He passes to Mika after that. Mika draws and plays Faldorn, and once his commander's out, plays a Spinerock Knoll, which comes in tapped, and hides away another card. Mackenzie's got an island for turn, and taps enough to cast Tegwyll before moving to combat. He swings the Fairy Mastermind at Max, dealing 3, and passes to me. I draw and play a Strip Mine. I then play out a Collector's Vault and go to combat. I swing Syr Ginger at Mackenzie for 3, which he doesn't block, and I pass after that. Max chooses Mika with a Xanathar trigger, and then plays Temple of Abandon from the top of Mika's library, scrying 1. He then casts a Passionate Archaeologist from Mika's deck, and passes turn. Mika plays a Mountain. He then casts a Professional Facebreaker, and goes to combat. He swings Faldorn at me, and I declare no blocks, taking the hit. Mika gets to make a treasure token from the Facebreaker after that, and passes to Mackenzie. Mackenzie draws and plays Demir's Signet, but sadly has no land for turn. He passes, and during his end step, I activate the Collector's Vault to draw a card and discard a card, plus make a treasure token, which has the Manufactor trigger, making me also a clue and a food token at the same time. I play a Gyreach Sanitarium as my land drop, and then pay 3 for a Basalt Monolith. I pass after that. Maximus chooses Mackenzie this time with Xanathar, and then draws for turn. He plays a Swamp from Mackenzie's library, and then casts Wayfarer's Bauble from there as well. He continues casting Mackenzie's spells with a Mystic Reflection, and he targets my Academy Manufactor. After that, we see a Nettling Nuisance, which comes in as a copy of the Manufactor. Max then continues by casting a Thought Vessel for Mackenzie, and thanks Mackenzie for borrowing so many of his cards, and that at least he's left him a land on top to draw. He then passes, and during his end step, Mika casts Seek the Beast to exile his top 2, and moves to his turn. Mika draws and plays a Forest from exile, making a Wolf token thanks to Faldorn. He then plays Xenagos the Reveler, and uses the 0 ability to make 3 mana. He then plays Durnan of the Yawning Portal from exile, making another Wolf token, and passing to Mackenzie. Mackenzie draws and plays an island. He casts Sword of Hearth and Home, and puts it onto the Fairy Mastermind. Going to combat, Mackenzie swings the Mastermind at Mika, who connects, and this gives Mackenzie a sword trigger. He flickers Tegwyll and goes to find a swamp to put into play. After that, he passes, and during his end step, I sacrifice a treasure, putting a +1/+1 counter onto Syr Ginger and scrying 1. And then activate the Collector's Vault again, drawing a card, discarding a card, and making a clue, treasure, and food token. I draw and play a Forsaken Monument. Max threatens a memory lap at this point, but I promise my hand is rather modest, and he lets it go through as long as he's not the first one to die. I'm then able to make colorless mana with Basalt Monolith, and use it to cast a Fire Shrieker and equip it onto Syr Ginger. I then cast an Assault Suit, which I equip as well. I follow that up by sacrificing a treasure token, which pumps Syr Ginger and lets me scry. I then cast Animation Module. I sacrifice my 2 food tokens to gain 6, and continue to add +1/+1 counters to Syr Ginger. I then sacrifice my clue tokens to draw 2 cards. I then play an Infiltration Lens, and a Nittle Cyst. However, Max finally pumps the brakes on it with a Memory Lapse to counter the Nittle Cyst and put it on top. I then equip the Infiltration Lens onto Syr Ginger, and I go to combat. I swing Syr Ginger at Mika, and he prevents taking lethal commander damage by blocking with his 2 wolves and Durnan. After that, I pass, and Max cracks Mackenzie's Wayfarer's Bauble during my end step to find a basic. Max gets Syr Ginger on his upkeep as I choose him with the Assault Suit, and he chooses me with Xanathar's trigger. He then plays Temple of the False God from my library, as well as a Genesis Chamber. Max then follows up with his own Realm Breaker, and activates it targeting me. I mill my top 3, and he gets an Urza's Mine. Max then casts a Coveted Jewel from my library, and draws 3 as it comes in. Going to combat, Max swings Syr Ginger at Xenagos to take out all the Planeswalker bonuses that she has, and with nothing else, passes. Mika gets Syr Ginger as well, and then draws for turn. He plays a Kessig Wolfrun, and then casts Nalfishni, making a Mirror token from the Genesis Chamber. He then activates the Mosswarp Bridge to cast a Delayed Blast Fireball from exile, which gets copied from Nalfishni. At this point, Max counters one of the fireballs with Rewind to save his commander, but Fireball still deals 5 to each creature and each opponent, except for Mika and his stuff. Going to combat, Mika swings the Facebreaker at Max, Faldorn at me, and Syr Ginger at Mackenzie. Max responds by casting Submerge and targets the Facebreaker, and Mackenzie and I take the hits, which in a funny twist has Mackenzie getting taken out of the game from commander damage with one of the decks that he'd built. After that, Mika passes. I draw and play Urza's Workshop, and then crack a treasure token to scry and put a +1/+1 counter onto Syr Ginger. I sacrifice another treasure token to do it again, and then activate the Collector's Vault to loot. I then play Lightning Greaves, and Max cycles a land to try and find an answer. Finding none, they get equipped onto Syr Ginger. I activate the Gaia Reach Sanitarium, making everyone draw a card and discard a card. I then sacrifice the Haunted Fengraf, and roll to see what random creature I'll get back, and it's a Meteor Golem which goes to my hand. I then cast it, destroying Xanathar. Moving to combat, I swing Syr Ginger at Max, and get my Coveted Jewel back, which draws me 3. Max then dies to the second Double Strike hit from commander damage, and I move to my second main phase. I play out a Trailblazer's Bloots, which I'd just drawn, and equip them onto Syr Ginger, and pass. Mika draws and plays Invasion of Kaldheim, exiling his hand and drawing a new one. He then activates Faldorn to exile his top card, which is a Forest, and then plays Professional Facebreaker from exile, making a hasty copy with Nalfishni. Moving to combat, Mika swings everything he can at me, but sadly, it's not enough to take me out, scooping it up to a lethal, unblockable Syr Ginger on the backswing. Game review time. This game was 47 minutes and 23 seconds, and I think about 6 minutes of it were me trying to justify to Maximus to let my Forsaken Monument go through. It definitely catapulted me further into the game, although I will say that having infinite mana in colorless is probably not as good as you might think. I think the true MVP for my deck this game was likely either the Xenagos that Mika cast, or the Academy Manufactor, as it allowed me to make clue tokens which helped me draw and smooth out. Beyond that Xenagos probably should not have come out. Giving my commander hexproof and trample when I already had double strike and it was massive just seemed like a bit of a mistake. Mika tends to play a very tight game with his Faldorn deck, and I was really surprised when he did that. It just seemed like a bit of an odd play, as he didn't have a ton of creatures out by the time that he actually cast them, and I don't think it really helped him out that much in the end. Speaking of not helping too much, I think unfortunately for Mackenzie, his deck just stalled. It seemed like Maximus got to play more of his deck than he did, which is kind of a bummer, so hopefully he'll get to play Tegwyll again in the future. Maximus' Xanathar deck is really cool to see, and I understand why he kept such an interesting opening hand. He really wanted to power out his commander and start playing other people's decks, which was on theme. I was also kind of surprised that he used the Submerge on Mika's creature, as he was the one who took out Xenagos with Syr Ginger to take off the hexproof. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.